we're going to bring in Justin here because he's going to do a segment with us later. But we're going to call this segment Charged Up because this was a little nuts. All right. So 1, 2, 3 charges on RJ. Nice. So our team, our coaches, and our players are not allowed to say things about the refs, but that doesn't apply to us. We can say whatever we want. So we're just going to lay into it. So for reference, though, let's see. From the rule book, from the NCAA rule book. All right. Players may move laterally or obliquely to maintain position, provided such a move is not toward the opponent when contact occurs. Also, keep this in mind. Offense-initiated contact, okay? Officials should not reward offensive players when they create contact with a defensive player who is legally moving to maintain a guarding position. Blah, blah, yeah. This action may take place anywhere on the court, blah, blah. Here's the important part. When it does, the action, officials should no call the play, okay, or even assess a player control foul if the contact warrants it. Okay, so we have all the charges that were called. The one against Cam Reddish, fair. Call it like it is. It happened. We get that. The ones against RJ. All right, here we go. We're going to play the game. We're going to let you, Eric, and Justin, you guys are going to call it because here we go. So here's the first one. 5 minutes and left in the first half. RJ on the top. He's going to go in, and he's going to okay. So what do we? You
want to go ahead, Justin?
Oh, I'm on the delay feed. Oh, that's not a charge. Not at all.
So, okay, see, that was my initial reaction. But then after I look at this one again, I can see how it's a charge. And I'll tell you what the referee was probably seeing. As much as I also don't appreciate that this ref who's on the baseline takes at least like 6 galloping steps and winds up his arm before he makes his call.
It's TV Teddy, man. He's got a
TV Teddy.
No. That was what's his face? Dawkins. He as the game was going on, he goes, "All right, TV Teddy, we know that you're there. You don't need to do 5 windups and sprint down the court to call a charge."
It's a little ridiculous. Like, I've seen it in baseball before when they call strikeouts and get emphatic, but at least they do it every time somebody gets K'd up. Like, anyway, the reason I could kind of see how this one was a charge, and unfortunately this is the one that like started the trend, which I think they started looking out for stuff, is in this one, Kenny Williams has his torso actually in a position where RJ's going, and he's actually essentially moving backwards. Like, a defender is actually allowed to move backwards and actually have his feet moving as long as his torso is kind of set and in a stationary position. He's in his cylinder. And I think it just happens to look even worse that he's shorter than RJ. And then RJ extends that arm a little bit, the shoulders down, and you see Kenny Williams actually, there's a little bit of a flop in here too. It's just the one, he's moving him back. He can feel like the bump where the shoulders come. And then, Kenny Williams pulls a pro move and
So the other piece of this is when a dribbler passes the opponent, Article 11, Section 10, when a dribbler passes the opponent sufficiently to have his head and shoulders beyond the front of the opponent's torso, the greater responsibility for subsequent contact shall be that of the opponent, the defender, which would mean it's a block. So this is close, but also I don't appreciate the fact that Kenny Williams has both his hands on RJ at this point.
Yeah. I thought that was a little, because that's the part where you get into the other rule of like he's impeding
the motion, freedom of movement.
RJ's cylinder, freedom of movement, his right to a cylinder, and see, that's why this one's confusing, because there's definitely like, they kind of like have like incidental contact like almost 3 times, and it's on like the 4th one that's the one where Kenny Williams like basically stops attempting to backpedal and then just takes the shoulder into the chest and all of a sudden loses his footing, if you will.
Also, this ref over here cannot see. He's over here. He's the one that's going to make the call. He cannot see RJ. Like, the fact that Kenny Williams has his hands on RJ.
So this first contact right here, that first little encounter right here, this first kind of getting him and bump, that's not a charge. That's why it comes to the 3rd one, and it just happens to be like I don't know. It's Kenny Williams like maybe just flopped pretty hard. It's hard to tell, but I mean, if the thing was at that moment, Kenny Williams, the step before he falls down is like a backwards motion, and
Yeah.
his torso, like he's not moving left to right to get in the way of where RJ's going. Unfortunately, on that one, RJ was still moving in like a straight direction, into Williams's chest, and then he fell. He
All
took
right.
he took contact and fell. So
Next
I think
one.
that this is the one that's excusable, but it definitely sucked.
3 minutes later. Here we go. RJ, left side. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's not a charge.
What?
I mean,
what is this? This guy, he jumps in front and he's moving laterally.
Williams is moving to the left. Yeah, his torso isn't in like a set defense. He's not in a like your body's not in defensive position. Your feet don't have to be set to take a charge, but your torso has to be not moving into where the defender's going. I mean, the offensive player is going. And yeah, he hadn't established a defensive position. He's trailing RJ Barrett. He just slides in there, and in the motion of him sliding in there is the same motion of him falling down. I mean, and Barrett actually tries to go the other way to avoid him. And again, the referee's in that same spot on the Carolina
huge
8.
Swing
view.
On this because RJ actually makes the shot. It should have been an and one.
Yeah.
This should have been an and one. Duke up 39-35 at this point. Blown call number 2. All right, next play. All right, I think this one's going to be in the second half now. 8 minutes here. Trey's going to pass this up to RJ, and then what? The other guy calls it. What is this? Kenny Williams goes down like a house of cards. I'm going to blow that one too. And then the fourth one. Okay, and here's the fourth one. And that one's a block.
Oh.
So here's the key, right? This is critical. We've done this side-by-side comparison for all of you. The charge is on the left. The block is on the right.
Yeah. At this precinct right now, look at Kenny Williams' upper body. I mean, it's at a curve at an angle, and that's because his hips and stuff are still moving into where RJ's going. RJ
late.
has a half a step around him, yeah. And it's like mirror images.
Yes, it really is. Look, this is the same exact play. I put the frames in the exact spot so that it would be easy for everyone to realize. Look at this. And we even slowed it down. This is the exact same play. One goes left, one goes right. The one on the right is called a block. The one on the left is called a charge. The only difference is that by the time we get to the one on the right, RJ has 4 fouls, and so that would have been his 5th, and the ref isn't going to foul him out on an offensive one.
Yeah, because you get in trouble for that.
What? What? Oh. But wait, there's more. Here we go. There's more. My
Always
God,
more.
the refs were giving out, like, what'd you say? The refs were giving out charges like Roy Williams gives out free test drives for Infinities. It's crazy. Yep. All right, so here's the final one. And this is this is the principle of verticality. Eric, Mr. Ref, explain, please.
Yeah, verticality, basically imagine that every player on the court has a strictly defined cylinder that they're standing in. It's almost like you're standing in your own little phone booth, right? And basically the general rule of contact is like you can't occupy another player's cylinder. A player has a right to that cylinder. He can stand there, he can jump, and when it's basically the classic have your hands up straight. And where a lot of players may jump up straight, a lot of times players will tilt their arms down in this motion, which is impeding into the driving player's cylinder. But if you go straight up, jump straight up, you're allowed to do that. They actually amended some of the rules so that players, like what Jack White does here, even in that restricted zone, you can still jump like he does in that zone.
Yep.
That restriction zone is actually intended for, they don't want players standing there to be underneath and undercutting incoming players trying to dunk or get a layup, because that's dangerous. But they actually wanted people, this like came out when they kind of altered this rule a little bit a while back. They wanted players to go up and like jump vertical to contend shots at the rim, because it's more exciting like that. But to do it not flying from behind or like flagrantly from the side or something like that, but to go up and kind of have these 2 vertical players meeting for attempts at the goal.
I can't believe it. This is a perfect block. This is a perfect block.
I mean, this view says it all. In addition to this, like generally, the rule of thumb is like if you swat the ball first, like that's the overarching thing. There's plenty of blocks or where there's not a foul called where a guy swats the ball and then like because the players are coming together collide, their like hips collide. But because you swatted the ball early and first, it's no longer like a shot attempt. But which I mean the rim camp, like you could not. I mean I think Jack gets 4 fingers on the middle of the ball for even touching the other guy.
And you know what? And here's the kicker. This ref calls it a block.
Yes.
And this one calls it a foul. But you know what? The one on the bottom can't see the play. Look at it again. This is the crazy part. The play is done this in such a way, right there. This ref can see the play. This ref, all he sees is Jack White blocking the ball and assumes that he's gonna and then the ball doesn't go in and he calls the foul. He cannot make that call, or he could, but he shouldn't, because the ref on the baseline is the one that needs to make this call, and that's the one that calls the block. But the other one overrules him from the wrong side because he can't see that Jack is in fact vertical in this play. God damn it! What the hell?
You can see it. He's just like like he makes this symbol and like he's casual about it too. It's like he's like, yeah, that's a block. And then the other guy just comes sprinting in, and like, I it's sometimes like you get these like like the brotherhood of referees, and like they're less likely to overturn each other, especially if there's a delay in this. But I mean, I think sometimes guys get caught up in the game,